fundamental issue. I will not yield, and Planned Parenthood will not yield.
All the odds against us. Faithfulness is the word.
My religion compels me, and I love it for it, to be against discrimination of any kind in our country.
Our rights come from nature and God, not from government.
All God asks of you is faithfulness, faithfulness, faithfulness.
Fighting for the family, standing for the church, laboring to return to a moral and biblically based culture.
This is the American Family Association at AFA Today.
And sometimes returning a culture to a biblically based fashion is just harder than it seems. Harder than it would seem. Anyway, welcome to the middle of your day. This is AFA Today on AFR Talk, and Kevin McCullough, glad to be with you. We come to you from the shadow of the Freedom Tower, just next to Trinity Cemetery and across the street from the 9/11 Memorial and Museum that is forever now ensconced in what was the footprint of World Trade I. And we're glad to be here. Kevin McCullough, my name, as I said, 888-589-8840 is my phone number, always open to you. And more of you have been writing to me in recent days, telling me not only that you appreciate what we're trying to do for you here, but that you're telling your friends about it. And I want to encourage you to continue to do that because, friends, we're up against a significant battle here, not only in this year, but for the very survival of our future and existence as a free nation, one nation under God, indivisible. I don't know that that descriptor is going to be applicable to us much longer, if it is now. But if it's not, and you feel like you want to be part of it, coming here every day is an excellent way to muscle up your mind, build up your brain. We seek to obliterate confusion. We seek to amplify truth. We seek to pursue clarity. We're not saying we're perfect at any of those things, but that's our desire. And we believe that if we commit ourselves to a task, that we will have greater chance of success with it than if we don't commit ourselves. It's odd how that works. You know, in order to try to get the golf ball in the hole, I'm using an illustration here that even the president would understand. I just want to make that clear. Even if you want to get the golf ball into the hole, you still have to put it in the direction of the hole, right? I know it's rocket science. It's brain surgery. It is something that you need an advanced degree, very smart people in a graduate school to sign off on and to tell you that it actually makes sense. But generally speaking, and again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a science professor or law professor or anything else. But generally speaking, people that don't aim at their goals usually don't hit them. It's funny. You may not think this is possible. Every place kicker in the NFL that has ever lined up to kick the football backwards away from the goal that they're supposed to be shooting at, they've never had one go in the right end of the field. They keep thinking, well, if the wind's just right, or if I can put some sort of English on it, make it like slice off to the side. Oddly enough, you still have a better chance of hitting an actual goal if you're actually aiming for it. I hope that the president understands that analogy. That's what I'm hoping for. Speaking of someone that's trying to get to the goal, Congress has been, in my mind, exceedingly patient with the IRS. They have been talking to the IRS. They've been saying to the IRS, look, you need to give us the emails that we subpoenaed. And this is in relationship to the fact that the IRS was systematically targeting conservatives, despite the fact that they said that they weren't, and that they were doing so on the instruction from Washington, D.C., which they also said wasn't happening. And they were trying to target those people specifically that disagreed with the President of the United States and his positions. So if you were a Tea Party group, if you were a conservative group, and God help you, if you were a Christian group, man, the IRS was they had the treatment ready for you. And of course, The president, evidently wasn't fully aware of this, so he was watching the news one night, and lo and behold, the man that has the most amount of intelligence resources at his disposal, he's just flipping through, I don't know, Channel 4 or 5 there in Washington, and up pops on his screen this TV story about how the IRS was targeting his political opponents. And lo and behold, if he didn't get so irate and indignant and said, I'm not going to be that kind of president. We're not going to be that kind of people. So the next day, he kept his sour and indignant and angry face on, and he went to the American people and he said, "Now, let me be clear. I was just watching this on TV last night, and as I was thinking about it, I said to myself, this is a horrible thing, and let me be clear, this will not stand." And what he meant was, and what he then said when people questioned him about it, he said, well, here's what I mean. I will get to the bottom of this, and we will find a way that at the end of the day, there will be no one that says that they can do this with impunity. Now, remember, he just found out about it watching television, because that's the way the president finds out about things, even though they have every one of the best intelligence services in the world all at their disposal. They're even part of the government. The intelligence services all report to the executive branch. But he doesn't find out his information through intelligence. He finds it through the local television news, where it's almost like Wikipedia. What did that Michael Scott character from The Office once say? Wikipedia is the best because anyone can update it at any time. That's kind of President Obama's approach to finding out about things that are going on during his watch. So he's, every night he's lighting up the cig, drinking some whiskey, watching the news. And we only know that he's lighting up the cig and drinking the whiskey because his doctor keeps putting on his medical reports, you need to cut back on alcohol and tobacco consumption. So, but he found out about that on the TV news too. Like this is the only president that I've seen in my, short 44 years on the planet. This is the only president I've ever seen that never actually found out anything that he was supposed to know. He's never found out anything that he was actually supposed to know in advance by actual communication with his people on his staff or in his government. He gets everything he needs from Channel 5 at 6 o'clock every night. The local TV news is how he found out about it. So here's what the most recent thing is that he's finding out about, because he promised. Remember, he promised we're going to get to the bottom of the IRS problem. This is not going to stand. We're not going to allow this to take place on our watch. And I can't believe this happened. This is terrible. This is horrible. So they start bringing in people from the IRS, oddly enough, because the IRS was involved in this little scandal. So they bring in the IRS people, because that's who you usually question, the people that are involved in the stuff. That's where you usually start the investigation, not with the people that had no connection to it. That's how Eric Holder performs investigations for the Justice Department. The Black Panthers standing outside of a polling place. We're going to go interview suburban mall shoppers on the other side of Washington, D.C., and that's how we'll find out why the Black Panthers were outside the poll place in Philadelphia. That's the Eric H. Holder Jr. form of justice. But normal investigations start with the people that are actually involved in the process. And so what you have in Washington is you have these committees that are in the Senate and in the House, specifically the one in the House, that's designed to serve as the government, the House Oversight and Government Reform. In other words, the whole job of that committee is to, with a microscope, watch the very flicker of people's eyelashes that are in the government to make sure that they're not lying or doing something they're not supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be all up in those people's business, saying, wait a second, that's not in keeping with the law. The law? I work for the president. Mister, let me be clear. He's my boss. Take it up with him. So they start pulling in these people from the IRS, and they say, how did this happen? How did it happen that you had, 55 million organizations that were all Christian and conservative and Tea Party, and, you're all up in their business, but there's not a single one of any of these organizations that actually support the president that you did the same thing to. Just guessing, just kind of, eyeballing it here. Just on the surface, kind of looks like you're playing favorites. And maybe in an illegal fashion that breaks the law, because you're only supposed to keep these organizations on the hook for something like, 9 months or something. It's something really short. Family Talk with Dr. James Dobson, they were kept on the hook for over 3 years. So as you walk through this scenario, you got the Congress trying to do their job. They're asking questions. Ms. Lerner, we need to come see you. And she's like, I just want to tell you I wasn't guilty, and here's all the reasons why, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right. I'm pleading the Fifth. And then she got up and left. And the congressmen are sitting there going, now, if you plead the Fifth, that means you don't get to say anything, but you said a whole bunch of stuff prior to pleading the Fifth, so I'm not exactly sure how we're supposed to now treat this, because it's kind of like you didn't plead the Fifth before you pleaded the Fifth. That's kind of like John Kerry for you said something one way before you said it another way. So they've brought her back a couple of times. Now, Lois, we need to talk a second here. You understand that pleading the Fifth means you can't say anything. She's like, well, here's all the reasons I wasn't guilty, but I'm not going to, I plead the Fifth. No, you're missing our point, Lois. You're not allowed to say that you're not guilty and then plead the Fifth. You have to plead the Fifth and then say nothing, or you have to answer, you have to let us ask you questions about the stuff that you already said. And sitting there like some sort of zombie robot, she goes, well, here's all the reasons why I'm still innocent, but I'm pleading the Fifth. And then she got up and left again. And so the congressmen, they're scratching their head. They're, one guy was picking his ear and eating the wax on TV. But anyway, that was all going on. And so they said, well, okay, this is going nowhere, so we'll just subpoena all of your electronic communication. Oh, okay. And so they started turning some stuff over, and then they found a whole bunch of emails that, guess what, had all of the really, the juiciest parts of whether or not she was telling the truth or not attached to them. Some would call them incriminating emails. And for some reason, like, I've never seen this happen before. Like lightning from the clouds, the very moment that happened, this hard drive just immediately had like a nuclear bomb go off inside. And so Lois is going, man, I was afraid I was going to have to turn that thing over. And she said, well, it's all, we had a hard drive crash. Sorry, we're not going to be able to supply the emails. And Congress said, no. We have IT guys. We have IT guys that can take that hard drive and fix it. And here's the latest, friends, and I want to know if you believe what Lois Lerner is telling us. Ex-IRS official Lois Lerner's crashed hard drive, according to today's headlines, has been recycled, making it likely the lost emails of the lightning rod and the Tea Party targeting controversy will never be found, according to multiple sources. Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah, the top Republican on the Finance Committee, said in a brief hallway interview, we've been informed that the hard drive was thrown away. Two additional sources told Politico the same late Wednesday night, citing IRS officials. It may just be standard government procedure, but the revelation is significant because some lawmakers and observers thought that there was a way that tech experts could revive Lerner's emails after they were washed away in a computer crash in the summer of 2011. Oddly enough. So they say. You ever worked with emails? You think those emails are really missing? Do we believe that? 888-589-8840. I'm Kevin McCullough. This is AFA Today on AFR Talk.